right, good morning, guys. This is episode 1 of Forge in the Fire. This is a rewrite. I will talk about it in a little bit, but I just wanted to do an intro on the show and what it's going to be about. Talk about why I created this show is it's mainly because I want to share my experiences of becoming a man without a father to teach me. I want to also learn from my peers, the people that I look up to as well, and just share real life and hopefully encourage others, whether um, you're already an entrepreneur, maybe you want to get into entrepreneurship and you don't know that it's really possible for you. And maybe you have some doubts, which I hope that we can share some light there on how to get started with those types of thoughts, as well as my peers in the real estate space, and even young adults who maybe they grew up without a father, maybe they grew up without a mother, or both, and they have some negative core beliefs about themselves. And this show is designed to help show them what's possible in life, because if we stay where we are, there's no chance for us to really grow in it. If you stay in an environment where you don't know really what's possible for you, it's very difficult to get out of it. So this hopefully will expand your mind on who I am, who the guests that I bring on are, and what's possible for you. So with that said, kind of sharing some of my journey, I mentioned on it in the beginning, is that I grew up without a father, which has made it very difficult at times for me to navigate life without having that man there to show me what it's like to become a man. So I've had to do a lot of that self-work on my own, through reading books, through learning from others, hiring mentors, having mentors that maybe I didn't pay, that were just there as a father figure to help me understand more about life, more about what it means to be a man, and grow into that and who I want to be. And with that said, I will be going more into that story as time goes on. I had originally recorded another podcast episode for this exact same show, but I was at a place in my life where I just, this is a few months ago, I just didn't really feel like it was going to be who I really wanted to be and show up as my best self in it. So I'm re-recording this, and maybe I'll drop that later on down the road as more episodes come out. But as an intro, I didn't want to show up coming from a victim mentality and think that that's what the show is going to be about, because it's not. This show is to empower others and hopefully give some inspiration to you, and I believe some for myself as well. And when I've been working, a lot of times in real estate, it can feel like the same thing over and over and over again. So I created this show as part of a passion project. And these last couple of weeks, I've been feeling really great, starting to kind of come out of things that I've been dealing with, which we'll talk about in a little bit. And this morning, as I've been getting ready for the day, I just got home from the gym, and it's just been top of mind. So here I am recording it, and we'll be getting this out as soon as some of the audio editing is done. I don't think I'm really gonna doctor this up too much with the video content. I'm just kind of putting it out there, and we're gonna see where this thing goes. So with that said, I really hope you guys enjoy this show, and going back to it with the other episode that I had recorded. It was a few months ago where I had just gotten kicked, and I thought that I was going to put the show out, and just wasn't really the right time. I wasn't really in a state of mind where I felt that it was going to bring a lot of value. I felt like I was going to be some sort of like a negative podcast host, and who wants to listen to something like that? I know I sure don't. I want to listen to things that inspire and feel like they empower me to go out and be my best self. So I'm re-recording this. Again, I'll probably drop that down the road, just to kind of share a little bit of a snippet. I also put pretty much my whole life story in there, and I want to share that with you guys as the journey goes on. So going back into it is when I say I got kicked, for context that those that don't know at this point in time, maybe you listen to this years later on. The time is now 2023. We just started the year about 12 days ago. And about a year ago, we had really great interest rates in the real estate market where things were going really good. And, we thought that the market was going to just keep going up and up and up and up. And as we found out this last year, that was not the case with everything that happened during the scamdemic. We had really low interest rates. The Fed printed a bunch of money, which has created a lot of inflationary pressure, which has caused the Fed to need to slow that down because houses were rapidly increasing in prices. And as time went on, it just really wasn't sustainable, even though the payments were great because rates were in the low twos, mid twos, low threes, depending on what your credit score and your income looked like and the risk that the type of loan was. And so I had one of my puppies. I had been flipping a bunch of houses at that time, and I got stuck holding the bag on a couple of them. And during that time, I learned a lot about myself, which is where the inspiration for this podcast came about. And I had known that I wanted to record something for a long time and start a show. But everybody has a real estate podcast. Everybody's got something where they just talk about the generic, how'd you get started in real estate? What's your life look like now? Those kind of things. And while those podcasts are great, I don't think that the world needs another one right now. I think we need to hear from people and their life stories on what the truth and the reality is of life and in business. If that's the path that you so choose to take, is that it's not all sunshine and roses. And I was actually invited on another podcast to speak about this recently, and it was really fun to share my story. I got a lot of positive feedback from not only the podcast host Shireen, she's a good friend of mine, but also those that chose to listen to it after we shared it. And I knew, I already had the idea by then that I was going to be creating this show. And I just put it off because I just wasn't in a really good place for me to drop something like that. And so I got stuck holding the bag on these properties. Kind of going back into it, I jump around a little bit. So I'm going to try and keep myself a little bit better on task here. But I had a couple properties that I bought for around $600,000, was expecting to sell them for, high sevens to maybe up to 900,000 on one of them. And what happened is when the Fed interest rate raised as high as it did, going from a 2% rate for a lot of mortgages, now we hit mid sevens, which for those of you for context, that's a huge, huge increase in interest rates. And so the payments became very unaffordable. Buyers started choosing what they wanted to buy and what they didn't want to buy. And there was a lot more options because houses weren't quite selling as much as they were previously. We had a long time during the 2020 to 2021 period where the inventory dropped from around 14 to 18,000 listings in the last 4 or 5 years down to, there was a point where we had 2,000 to 3,000 listings on the market. Maybe that's an exaggeration on the two, but definitely in the threes and fours, 3,000 to 4,000 homes on the market in the Phoenix market. And that's not enough to sustain for the amount of demand that we had for buyers out there, especially when rates were as low as they were, where you could get a great house with a super low payment. I mean, you could buy a $400,000 or $500,000 house with a low $2,000 a month payment. And now that same payment on that same price would be, $2,800 to probably $3,700, depending on the purchase price, those kind of things, your down payment, et cetera. I won't go too deep into that because that's kind of boring. But so when that happened, the houses that I had, they sat on the market. They didn't sell. I ended up losing a lot of money on those, 6 figures on those. And that was very challenging to navigate, as those were some of my first big losses with holding properties. I've had business ventures where I've lost money before, and those are struggles in their own. However, this one where it was something completely out of my control and I didn't really know how to navigate it. Man, it took a toll on my mental state. I ended up having to let go some of my employees to just make sure that we could keep the lights on and keep going in business, because I saw the writing on the wall very early on as this process started. and got rid of my office. I moved out of the office that I had just gotten into my home office now. And then I work around different satellite offices around because I can be a little bit more virtual. So it's been kind of cool because it's provided me some more flexibility. But when I got kicked, I had a lot of things that kind of made it difficult for me to stay focused and continue going. All that to say that I'm coming out of it and I will be back to myself. I'm going to talk a little bit about how I did that. When all that stuff happened, I stopped waking up early. I wasn't having that great of workouts in the gym. I wasn't doing the habits that I knew that I needed to do every single day to have a great day and be able to create the success and the life that I really desired for myself. And I'm a big, disciplined habits type of person where the small habits that you have every day are the ones that actually create the success. It's not these big onesie twosie pops that are going to create this massive success for you. Well, yes, that is true. Those can and will happen if you work hard enough and you work at it long enough. My belief is that it's the little habits that you do every single day that are going to push the needle a little bit farther. And it doesn't even have to be just stuff in life or in business. It can be some things. What I do a lot is a morning routine, which I just got home from doing. And so I wake up very early. I wake up around 4:50, 5 o'clock in the morning. I immediately drink my water. I go to the gym, and then after I get home, I start getting ready for my day, shower, feed my dogs, and then I'm blanking. And then I'll sit down and meditate for a little bit. And I recently learned that part of the meditations that I was doing was not very empowering. It was actually downcycling me, which I'll talk about completely later on. And after I do my meditations, I journal, get my thoughts down on paper, talk about the goals and the places that I want to take myself to, as well as pray, and a phone going off, and hey, distractions. And then I'll also write down my critical tasks that I need to do for that day, and then continue moving forward with my day. Get the things that are done that need to be done, and continue moving forward. Try and manage my time the best I can. But for a long time, I slipped on those habits. I wasn't journaling. I wasn't praying. I wasn't taking the time to read. And I've gotten back to the habits that I knew that I needed to do to push the needle on that. But it's not just even for business. It's for you and your self-confidence and your self-esteem. Because when you have really loose habits, you're not doing the best things for yourself to be able to create the best life for yourself. And so I'm getting back to the basics of what I need to do. I'm on the 75 hard challenge right now from Andy Frisella. If you've ever heard of it, it's, a lot of people give it a bad rap. They're like, oh, it's just this like workout and diet plan. Well, it's really not. And I, for a long time, thought it was a lot harder than it was going to be. It was, I don't like to have to limit myself on my food, but now I am, and I'm learning that that's good for me. I like my sweets. I like pizza. I like all the things that are not good for you. I'm not a big one on the fast food. I really it doesn't do it for me, but I like to eat rich foods, and I like to eat, sweets. It's great. Once in a while, I like to have a drink, but I'm not a big drinker. Never really have been. And I was doing my workouts, but I wasn't there. I was often in la la land, beating myself up for taking bad risks on properties that I shouldn't have, and just doing all the things that are negative. Negative self-talk is a real thing. It'll put you in a dark place very, very quickly. And so I'm doing these things that will help build my self-esteem back up, where I have the self-confidence to go out and recreate the business that I want to, recreate the life that I want to, which up until this point, I've done some really awesome things, made millions of dollars. I've bought my own home by the time I turned 27. I bought one of my dream cars, and I have an amazing girlfriend. I spend a ton of time with our dogs, and I love that. I have a great relationship with my sister. And, I've done a lot of really awesome things. Last year, we traveled a ton. We were in Hawaii, we were in Vegas a bunch. We were in Minnesota visiting some family, and Utah and Chicago, and just all over the place, exploring the world, and creating some really awesome memories. But I just wasn't happy. As much as I traveled, I just wasn't happy. And so I'm getting myself back to being in a place where I am happy. I am doing the things that I know I need to do every single day to get me back to that, where I'm not placing 100% of my value on what I do and how much money I make and the things that I have. I'm relearning how to love myself and love the journey that I'm on, because success is not a destination. It's actually the progress that gets you there, and you got to have joy in the journey. And if you don't, it's going to be a really sucky, long, painful journey. So I encourage you, if you are on one of those journeys where maybe you're beating yourself up, or maybe you just think that success is this destination, I challenge you to challenge those beliefs and reframe that to enjoy every day and enjoy the process that it takes to get there every day. One of the other habits that I forgot to mention was doing a gratitude practice every day, where I write down and I feel 3 things every single day that I'm grateful for. And I challenge myself as much as possible to do those as things that are not monetary, where it's not, oh, I'm so grateful for all this money I have. I am so grateful for this thing that I bought. It's no, I'm grateful. I'm alive, grateful for the beautiful skies outside. Arizona has some of the best sunsets on the planet, and I'll challenge that hands down to anybody. And, I'm grateful for my dog. My dog I love that little dude, to the moon and back a billion times. I'm grateful for my relationship with my girlfriend, for my sister, these little things that you have to think of outside the box of what one would normally be grateful for in this materialistic world that we live in. So going back to it, the things that are pulling me out of it, it's getting back to my small habits. It's doing the 75 hard challenge, which for the most part has been relatively easy. I was telling myself it was really difficult for a long time, and I didn't want to do the diet. I didn't want to do the second workout. I couldn't drink a gallon of water a day, all these types of things. And what I'm learning about myself is I have to be better with my time. I have to be more conscious where I put my efforts. So last night we got home from something. It was an event that we went to, and I hadn't done my second workout. I hadn't read my 10 pages yet. And so I was doing that at 8:30 p.m., got in bed at about 10 p.m. last night, which is pretty late for me. I usually go to bed around 9:30, and I'm winding down for an hour or so before that. On top of that, I've been trying to slow down and work on myself during this process, because something I'll touch on a little bit is we carry anchors when we're going through a bunch of stuff, and even anchors from our childhood that maybe we just don't even know that are there. And so I've been working on those types of things. I lost my money, not my money. Whoa. I lost my mother about 5 years ago. And so that's been very difficult to grieve and navigate life without her. She was a huge piece of the puzzle in my life. So I've been working on dealing with that, and also dealing with the negative self-talk and the core beliefs that I had about myself and about the world. And another thing that I've been doing is pushing myself to do these hard things. For a long time, when I got into this depressionary state where I was in, I wasn't making phone calls. Sure, I would call people I was comfortable talking with, but I wasn't really going out of my way to call the leads that we had, because for a long time I had, people that worked for me that would call the leads for me, and I didn't really have to do that. which was a mistake in my own. I should have kept doing that to be in the trenches with them the entire time, but I was trying to help grow the business and remove different hats that I didn't need to wear at that time so I could focus on other things, if that makes sense. So I've been pushing myself to do these hard things, and it's building that one day at a time, a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more within myself, where I'm now feeling back to who I have been and who I've built myself up to be. Because when you look at these people that are successful in your eyes, whatever you define success is it's not like they were born that way. They had to create themselves into that through habits and discipline and becoming the best version of themselves and working on themselves. And then I also spent a lot of time, and I still do, with a therapist. I have a therapist, and I think that those of us that carry trauma, which is everybody, should have a therapist that they work with. And I believe it's a very healthy and strong thing, where a lot of people will look down on it as, oh, there's something wrong with you. No, there's something wrong with all of us. We are all humans. We are all flawed. And so if you can reframe the way that you think about therapy and say, hey, I need to go show up as my best self, and I can't do that without knowing where my blind spots are, and finding somebody that can help you see those and learn how to overcome those, you can show up as your best self. And so something I wrote down before this that I really wanted to touch on is, we cannot show up as our best selves when we're subconsciously carrying anchors that we may not even know that are there. Okay. So I'll repeat that. We cannot show up as our best selves when we're subconsciously carrying anchors that we may not know that are even there. I had a lot of those. And how are you supposed to fly as a bird, as an eagle, when you have a bunch of anchors weighing you down? It's very difficult to take off when you have a bunch of anchors weighing you down. So I'm removing those anchors. I'm clipping those anchors, and I'm learning how to better navigate life. And so I encourage you to reframe the way that you think about therapy and the way that you think about, working with psychologists to fix the things that are in our heads, because it's not a bad thing. It's actually a really great thing. And I believe that strong people are the ones that work on themselves and show up as their best selves, because we've got a lot of chaos in this world right now, and we need leaders to show up as their best selves to help make sure that the rest of society can also elevate and grow. Not everybody has to be an entrepreneur. Not everybody has to be the owner of a Fortune 500 company or work in real estate or be a doctor, or all these other different career types that you can choose to go down in your life. But if we can show up as our best selves, we can also impact others to show up as their best selves. And so that's what I created this podcast for. And that's what I'm on a mission to do, is help others show up and be their best selves in life. So with that said, I think that's enough sharing for today. I'm really excited for us to go on this journey together and walk through this fire and define what being forged in the fire is if you look at the way swords used to be made, swords are really cool if you really think about it. Maybe you don't think so, but I think they're pretty cool the way that they were made, especially before we had modern technology that we do now. A blacksmith would put this big piece of metal in the fire, and he would take it out and he would beat it over and over and over again with a hammer. And then he'd put it back in the fire and let it melt down again, and then beat it over and over and over again. And that's what we do in this journey called life, is as we walk through these adversities, nobody's life is going to be perfect and easy. Not one person on this planet. We will always have adversity to go through. And that is our challenge, to navigate that. And that's actually a really great thing, because that's what makes life life. And so the reason that I named the show Forged in the Fire is because I look at each of us as a sword. We have our own battles that we have to fight, which is why we're swords. We fight battles with swords. And so if You forge yourself every single time that you go through one of these challenges in life, and you put yourself in the fire, or you get put in the fire by God or the universe or whatever you believe, or your circumstances. I believe that God puts us through these challenges to help grow us into who we're supposed to be. So if you are put in that fire, when you come out, beat the hammer over and over and over again. Challenge yourself to become your best self by walking through the fire and getting forged into a sword as you walk through that fire. So I'm going to leave that with you, that thought with you guys. I'll see you guys next time. I'm super excited to share more of my thoughts here, as well as bring on guests that we can all learn from. So I hope you guys have a great day. Thank you for listening.